Please join me in welcoming Igor Ilic to tell us about growing an L1 community.
Hello. Cool. So I thought that was a really, really great panel. I know I'm the last speaker before we wrap up, but I think the spiciness is good. Keep it civil, but I think it's really important for the community. I think this community is passionate about this technology. I think this community realizes that this technology, the ICP, offers something different in the blockchain landscape, and I think it's great that we have these conversations, and like it would be way worse, I think, if like at the end of day 2 we were all just like waiting to go to the bar and not wanting to talk about like the things that we're here for. So spiciness is great, and it's great to see. And I think the panel actually dovetails into my talk a little bit. You guys stole a little of my thunder, but that's cool. I took notes, so I might riff on some of the things that you were talking about, but my talk is growing an L1 community. My slide's up. So real quick, who am I? My name is Igor Lilic. I have been around the crypto space for a pretty long time. I was fairly early into Bitcoin. Big part of the New York Bitcoin scene. That's actually where I met Ruben way back when. We go back to 2014, 2015. I was an early employee at Consensus. Consensus is an Ethereum company founded by a co-founder of Ethereum, Joseph Lubin. I joined Consensus the day after the Ethereum Genesis block. I was there for 6 years. I joined the Dfinity Foundation after Consensus as DevRel. I was joking, like my karma here is pretty good because I was giving people money while I was at the Dfinity Foundation as the grants lead with Alexa Smith. And so, I have this window of seeing these communities grow. I mean, I'm just another block in the chain. I haven't launched my own token. I haven't created my own network, but I've been a part of these communities as they've grown, and I have seen I've seen things that work to help to grow a community, and I think that context and that perspective is always really interesting. When Mike was talking earlier, he made a point like a different type of 8-year gang, and I think the 8-year gang is a pretty interesting meme that we have in our community. So if you can quickly think about 8 years ago was May 17th, 2015. So 8 years sounds like a long time, but 2015 doesn't seem like it was that far away. So if you could think about where you were May 17th, 2015, in the context of growing blockchain communities, I could tell you I was in Wilmington, Delaware. I was working full-time as a software engineering consultant for a company called ThoughtWorks, doing consulting for a major bank, which was a lot of long hours. I was working with a team in India, helping to manage. And then at night, after work, I was trying to break out of the matrix by getting into crypto, Web3 full time. May 17th, 2015, Ethereum hadn't even launched yet. So if we're talking about the 8-year gang with the Internet Computer, we're talking about growing the L1 community of the Internet Computer. Still no? Okay. And we think about time context, and we think about Ethereum today in this massive juggernaut of innovation and funding rounds and how many cycles we've had and how much our language has changed, how much our culture has changed because of crypto. 8 years ago, it wasn't even live. And so, I do think that's super interesting context. And so through that journey, going back, and I can even go a few years before May 17th, 2015, where my kind of full-time blockchain journey started. Actually, my full-time blockchain journey started with Coursera. Balaji hosted a course called Startup Engineering on Coursera for free, and I took it in the summer of 2013, I think, or the spring of 2013. And he was teaching people how to be Bitcoin entrepreneurs, and that's kind of like where I really wanted to do this full time. So from 2013 on is basically the window. Okay, now they're updated. So yeah, great timing, because I was okay. So we'll go through learnings from the Bitcoin community, learnings from the Ethereum community, and kind of some closing thoughts. Who I am, blah blah blah. We went through that. So okay, so going to that 2013 timeframe, and starting with the learnings from the Bitcoin community, and I think again, props to Code and State for bringing us all here together, because physical spaces really do matter. Being in person, we're all on Twitter, we're all on Discord, we're all on Slack. That's all great, but you still can't match the value of meeting up in person, going to dinners, having some drinks, talking things through, sharing, retweeting, showing the world that we're together, that we're learning, that we're having these conversations. This physical space specifically, this is a photo from the Bitcoin Center in New York City, which was an event space opened by a gentleman named Nick Spanos. I think he's actually Miami-based now, but Bitcoin OG, super Bitcoin OG, real estate tycoon in New York. He leased a retail space on 40 Broad Street in New York City. So you can imagine, well, if you've never been to 40 Broad, you don't know where 40 Broad Street is. It's in the heart of the financial district of New York City. It's right next to the New York Stock Exchange. So you can imagine the rent was not cheap for the Bitcoin Center, but it was almost a political statement. It's like, you know what? We're here with Bitcoin, and we are going to be here. We are going to grow this community. We are going to grow this community. We're going to educate people about financial freedom. We're going to educate people about what this technology is all about, and we're going to do it in the physical space. So, I mean, did anyone go to the Bitcoin Center in New York City? I'm just out of curious. Any hands? A few hands. 1, 2, 3. It was a really cool spot. If you look at the number of people here in this photo, I mean, it's maybe not even bigger than the size of this conference, right? But it's a starting point in the chain of introducing new people, teaching new people, advocating for the technology, advocating for the community, advocating for the message, advocating for the reason to be a part of a movement, a part of the technology. This is actually a photo of my brother wearing my jacket. I thought I would put it up there just to troll him a little bit. They're in front of the New York Stock Exchange making a Bitcoin transaction, peer-to-peer, through their phones. The physical spaces allow, I guess the resolution's a little bit bad. The physical spaces allow for unique experiences to be created and to kind of create a conversation. The next kind of learning from the Bitcoin ecosystem is let the ecosystem thought leader shine, and I apologize for the resolution on these. That's a photo of Andreas Antonopoulos. That is at the Bitcoin Center, the same physical event space at 40 Broad Street. If you have spent any time in the Bitcoin community, I think you have watched, heard, listened to, read something from Andreas Antonopoulos. He is maybe after Satoshi, like the single most, I don't want to be controversial, but one of the more influential thought leaders in the Bitcoin ecosystem, because he is a teacher, he is a guru, he is actually pretty neutral, right? Like, he definitely has political opinions about the meaning of the technology and what the political, financial ramifications of Bitcoin are, but he's not one of these kind of, libertarian, flag-wielding, anti-establishment. I mean, he does have that flavor, but that's not the main purpose of what he talks about. The main purpose of what he talks about is arming people with the knowledge of the technology. And the Bitcoin community has embraced Andreas Antonopoulos, and they really create this platform to let him shine and let him be the beacon and let him be the role model and let him set, the tone for how the community means to let more people in, and how the community means to teach people about the technology. And so I think it's a really interesting thought for us as the internet computer community. I think everyone has their favorite thought leaders. We definitely have thought leaders in this community, and they represent, I think the spirit of Andreas Antonopoulos, being technically minded, being, open to teaching, pushing the envelope forward. And I think, retweet your thought leaders, invite them to panels, invite them to presentations, invite them to kind of give more talks, and also like emulate them. I don't know if I've completely lifted an Andreas Antonopoulos talk before, but I've definitely, at college events, at university campuses, when I've talked on behalf of Consensus for the Ethereum community or even the Bitcoin community, I've used his notes. I've used his way of, I think he explains proof of work. The first time I heard him explain proof of work, he described it as a Sudoku puzzle. And when he was explaining difficulty adjustment, Sudoku is like 1 through 9, right? And the difficulty adjustment is like, okay, everyone in the room is doing the Sudoku puzzle, and then some people start doing it faster, and then so now instead of 1 through 9, everyone has to do it from 1 through 10. And then it's like, oh, now Sudoku's harder because it's another digit, and maybe everyone can't do 1 through 10, so then they replace it back to 1 through 9, and people can't do 1 through 9, so it goes 1 through 8, and that's like the difficulty readjustment for Bitcoin, as an example. Was able to use that kind of way of describing proof of work to audiences that wanted to learn to help them bridge the gap. We don't really describe proof of work anymore to people, which is great. But imitate your thought leaders, your ecosystem thought leaders. The next learning is that meme culture is essential to growing these communities. Physical is important, but digital is where we scale, right? And I mean, HODL was a typo on the Bitcoin Talk forums. That's the origin story of HODL. Someone typoed hold, and it became a meme that has been a rallying cry to this day, to be honest, of the Bitcoin community and of the broader Web3 community. And it helps to grow that community. It helps to create this tribe. It helps to create this mentality of, yes, we're in it together. Yes, we have a political philosophy. We have a group identity, and part of that group identity is hodling. This is probably my favorite Bitcoin era meme. This is the whale bear. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but basically there was a whale who had a huge cell wall, maybe 2014, something like that. And then the bulls kind of ate through the cell wall, and then the whole community celebrated by slaying the bear whale, which is like this is a beautiful piece of art, I think. And of course, this is Satoshi. Just the legacy of Satoshi as a meme itself will forever be with us, which, genius storytelling, right? Whoever Satoshi was. But it's this like interesting part of the forever lore of this whole ecosystem. And all these things put together create a narrative, they create a story. It's not just about a piece of technology, it's not just about code, it's about a community, it's about the memes, it's about the storytelling, it's about the origin. All of these things are important to growing a community. The next learning, and maybe this is a weird learning from the Bitcoin community, but the next learning is embrace other technologies. In the early days of Bitcoin, before there was Ethereum, before there was Ripple, before there were, Litecoin or anything, everyone in the Bitcoin community was imagining the future of smart contracts and blockchain technology. They were all imagining it together as Bitcoiners. And actually, in the very early Bitcoin days, it was a very innovative space. This is a picture of Charlie Lee. He was one of the first people to actually say, like, wait a minute, to Jordan's point, wait a minute, this is open source technology. Like, I want to take this, I want to remix it, I want to build my own thing, and he deployed Litecoin, which is still, a technology that's in use today. I mean, we don't really talk about Litecoin that often, but, Doge is a fork of Litecoin, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, if there is no Litecoin, we don't have Dogecoin, we then don't have this meme coin phenomenon, right? So you never know how these things evolve. I mean, to the idea of like gardening, you kind of plant some seeds and you see what grows, and okay, maybe over here I don't need to water as much, maybe over here I need, more sunlight or whatever. You kind of have to see how things evolve, but embracing technologies is a really important thing to help your community establish a culture of experimentation, to establish a culture of planting many seeds, establish a culture of allowing the culture to remix, to embrace new things. If you heard Bob Bodley talk yesterday, I mean, I love the idea of ordinals. The fastest ordinals exchange can only be on the internet computer. Like, that's awesome. I think that's and actually it's awesome as a Bitcoiner, because these maximalists hate ordinals, which for me is great. Like getting under the skin of Bitcoin maximalists is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And ordinals are great because they're starting to break through this wall of anti-innovation that Bitcoiners have had for a few years. And anyways, I'm digressing. But again, the resolution here is a little bit bad. But this says the Bitcoin Center, so the same physical event space, presents What is Ethereum with Vitalik Buterin, 7 p.m. Thursday, June 19, 2014, 40 Broad Street. And so the Bitcoin Center in 2014 was one of the launching pads of the Ethereum technology. New York was a very major city in the growth development of Ethereum. The consensus headquarters is 49 Bogart in Bushwick. And so, again, that physical event space, coupled with embracing other technologies, plants a seed, that help to create Ethereum, help to grow the entire ecosystem. So that's some learnings from Bitcoin. Learning from Ethereum, moving on, and again, the Genesis block of Ethereum was July 31st of 2015. Again, Jordan, developers. I told you stole some of my thunder, but all good. That's not my meme, that's Steve Ballmer. If you don't know this meme, you should YouTube it because it's legendary. So when I was at Consensus, I was a tech lead, really focused on, again, developer growth, adoption, etc. And I would often do this search on GitHub. And if you don't know about this, you can actually use GitHub search, and you could do extension and a colon, and then you can put the file extension of a piece of code. So you could do this with JavaScript, Python, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here I'm doing extension colon SOL for Solidity, and I've done this search, maybe every quarter since 2015. And in 2015, this would have 100 results. In 2016, maybe 1,000. In 2017, maybe 10,000. In 2018, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, this was done maybe last week. You go on GitHub and you search for Solidity contracts, you get over 9 million code results, which is like amazing, fascinating. Really, really, if you want to think about growth metrics for a community, for a piece of technology, like this is indisputable growth, right? There's 9 million pieces of code on GitHub right now that have a file extension of Solidity. The reason that's important from a developer's perspective, the more code that exists for an L1 community, the more the novice junior developer who's just getting started, they can search, they can copy paste, they can experiment, they could reuse code, they don't have to reinvent the wheel. Again, OpenZeppelin, for example, everyone uses OpenZeppelin. And maybe like 3 million of these 9 million results are just forks of OpenZeppelin, but that's okay because it's a resource to help. Oops. I'm having all my technical difficulties. It's a resource to help new developers onboard. So developers, we need to keep that focus. Another learning is fake it till you make it. So again, the resolution here is not that great, but this is a photo, screenshot of a flyer that we had at Consensus of all the products that Consensus had at a given point in time. Maybe this was 2018. And then this, if you could see the red X's, are the X's. The X's are the ones that don't exist anymore, right? And so the ones that do exist, I mean, mainly is MetaMask, Infura, and a few others. But when we were putting out this flyer, we were really pumping our chests out and saying, like, we actually have all of these products, and they all work, and they all are on Ethereum, and they all showcase the power and value of Ethereum. And, they did work to some extent. They all had websites, they all had documentation, etc. But a lot of them failed, right? And that's okay. I think startups fail. I think that's not a controversial statement. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to iterate, and it's okay to like present as though like you want this thing to be a success. You want this product to be a real thing. You want it to have a nice landing page, nice branding, nice marketing. Even if it's not 100% live or production ready, fake it till you make it is actually like a pretty legitimately good use case. I mean, you don't want to like scam people. Obviously, you don't want to be lying to people. You don't want to be defrauding people. This is terrible ideas. Like if you have that in your mind, like go away, build on Solana or something. But this idea of like, okay, yeah, like present yourself as a professional group of people who actually want to like create a product that really solves user problems. Like by all means, make a brand, make a landing page, pick a color scheme, create a design and market your product. I know I said developers as the first slide, and so this is a little bit of a contradiction, but it is not just about developers. The question back there about talking to the real humans and explaining things for the real humans. I think the Ethereum community got this pretty early, pretty quickly. So this is a screenshot of one of the first dApps from Ujo Music. It was a collaboration with an artist named Imogen Heap. She released a song called Tiny Human, I believe was the name of the song. And the Ujo team created a smart contract whereby when you want to buy the Tiny Human song, you pay the smart contract, and then in the smart contract, all of the people that contributed to that song had their royalty payout embedded in the smart contract. And so for every purchase, the smart contract distributed the royalties. I mean, it wasn't the solution to the music industry's, royalty, complexity or anything, but it was a showcase. It was a very early showcase about what we are thinking about as a community, what kinds of problems we want to solve, what is interesting to us about approaching, and it showcased that we're not here to just do it by ourselves as developers, as technologists. No, we want to bring along the artists, we want to bring along other communities, we want to bring along creatives, we want to change the conversation between consumers and producers, and we want to kind of showcase that this technology can disintermediate and at the end of the day create better solutions. And so realizing that it's not just about software engineers engineering software to create the coolest smart contracts, it is about engaging other communities. The next lesson is be weird and kind of embrace the chaos. This is a screenshot of CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties were kind of like the first-ish, depends on who you ask, NFT that really had mainstream appeal, mainstream adoption. And they're weird. You breed the cats and then you can create new cats and they have traits and all this kind of stuff. And it's weird and it's kind of like cringe maybe, Beanie Babies or whatever, but the Ethereum community just embraces. Okay, we got cats clogging the chains, and there's articles on CoinDesk about how CryptoKitties is going to destroy the Ethereum network because blah blah blah, and it's just noise from CoinDesk, but that was actually an early stress test of Ethereum. It's there's cats clogging the tubes. How do we scale? Let's start thinking about these layer 2s. Let's start thinking about scaling opportunities. Let's use this lightning in a bottle, and CryptoKitties lasted maybe 8 to 15 months, more or less. And it was a lightning in a bottle, and they faded away. But while it was a lightning in a bottle, the community used that as a tool to learn about how the network reacts to this sort of volume, what kind of things people want to do. Oh, you mean that people want to buy these things and trade them and have games and through CryptoKitties you then get Axie Infinity, right? Maybe you don't have Axie Infinity if CryptoKitties never exists. Maybe you don't have the NFT boom if CryptoKitties wasn't this weird experiment that they just Dapper Labs just decided to launch. And so be weird. Weird is good. I teach my daughters weird is a good word, embrace that, embrace the chaos. And so, my time is running short, and I know I'm the last speaker before we wrap up, but just a couple things, embrace winners. I guess we're in a winter. I think this is the first winter where the global macro has moved away from a quantitative easing environment and interest rates are up. And so it might be an extended winter. It might be I don't know, but I'm a crypto person, so I've been predicting the cascading collapse of the financial, infrastructure since 2012. So who knows if this time it's for real. Let's hope. Maybe, I don't know, And so it might be an extended winter. We might, who knows? Maybe ICP is $5 for the next 2 years. If that's the saddest thing that I could say, maybe you shouldn't be in this community, honestly, because the price stuff, and the next slide is except that the market is cyclical. The price stuff, obviously, token go up, number go up, yeah, fine. We all want number to go up, but there's a lot of building left to be done on this community. There's a lot of tooling. There's a lot of, I think one of the things in the panel that I wanted to raise my hand on is there's actually a segment of developers that aren't really represented at all, and those are like the infrastructure DevOpsy people, which I come from that tradition. It's like, what about node providers? What about other node softwares? What about sidecar apps for node providers? Like, I think there's this whole uncharted set of code and infrastructure service providers that hasn't even started to be tapped yet, or at least is not really talked about in the community, as far as I know. Whereas with Ethereum, from the beginning they had 5 different clients. They had Haskell, Go, Python, Java, and I'm sure maybe they had 4. I don't know, but they had a lot of clients. And they still do. They still do, and it's a big part of their core thesis is client diversity. And it's like, well, we don't have client diversity. We don't even know how to deploy, a node. Like, you can't even really run a load locally. There is no like local RPC or anything like that. And so like, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's not a good thing. But the point is, we still have a lot of building to do. And I think like, winters are the best time to do the building because the builders, they hunker down and they build, and like, it's a part of the journey, right? Like, enjoy. Like, I like winters more than I like summers, like, because when the booms come, and like, all the people that are only here for the short-term profits show up. Like, Solana ends up being $300, SBF makes his billions, and then like, eventually it collapses, and then like, we all look bad, and so winters are good. Except that the market is cyclical. Again, who knows how long this winter may last, but in general, financial markets are cyclical, right? So kind of like, if you're anxious about the price, like, I get it, I've been there or whatever, but you kind of like, I think like watching charts and being focused on the price obsessively is an anti-pattern. My personal 2 thoughts, kind of like, chill out, zoom out, build, trust, and like, go into the communities, use the technologies that you think are interesting. If you don't think ICP is interesting, like, okay, that's cool. No one's forcing you to be here. In this talk, like, one thing I didn't super talk about is the tech, right? I think I talked about communities, I think I talked about memes, culture, physical spaces, being weird, using, meeting other. I didn't really talk about tech. Like, growing an L1 community, obviously the tech is important. But these things are, growing a community is about people, right? And how the people interact, what norms they have, what kind of values they share. And so, yeah, I mean, that's it. Thank you so much. And again,